Once you've got your shoulder lines on the pieces of wood, your rails, it's time to put the gauge lines. And we're going to do something a little bit different. What we're going to do, I've set the pins between, or set the gauge pins wider, slightly wider, the points of the pins on either side of the chisel that I used to chop the mortise hole. But let's take a look at what we're going to do here. This is going to have the tenon on it. This is the face that I marked. Watch what happens if I put this on here. Remember, we pared down the inside face of here. If we use this now as the initial mark and reference like this, drop this in the vise like this, and then we bring a knife wall across the top here like that. That gives us the exact position for the face, the registration face tenon, so that's there. If we take this first pin now and lock it on there, can you see right in there? Let me put this in the steady position. So if I set that first pin to there, then I have the exact parallel gauge lines that are perfectly parallel to this outside face. The mortise holes were parallel to the outside face of this. The exact distance is registered. So there are my exact cut lines. And I have made this slightly wider. No point putting them here because the gauge lines are actually the walls of the hole. Can you see there? So there are my gauge lines. So I cut fat. I cut these oversized. Just slightly. I've got my shoulders to do. I usually cut my shoulders first. Wide chisel. That step down makes all the difference to this. A fine saw. Make sure you don't go beyond your gauge line or your wall of your groove. If anything, stop shy of it. Not that shy. I'm only about halfway on this side. Definitely better less than more, I think, because you want the tenon to have the strength of a 1/4 inch tenon. You can't split, you cannot usually split cut the tenons from the end with sapele. It just doesn't usually have straight grain. Not like oak at all. So we're going to saw one and then we're going to pare the other. This is my good face here, so I'm going to cut this one. On the outside of the line, I'm going to leave the line out there. And you can leave it as much as you like. You don't really have to cut close. Drop your hand corner to corner, like that. Do the same to this side, so I'm going to run parallel to the edge of the groove. So I'm listening now for the saw in the wood. Take a look. Yep, we're close. That's that one. What we're going to do with the other one is I'm just going to show you. So I left that on so I'm perfectly parallel to the face. Can you see on here how much I left on the surface? I left a good 1.5 millimeters on there because I'm going to pare that down with the router plane in a minute. This one I'm going to do a little bit differently. I'm going to try it and see how it works. Use a chisel hammer if your hands are not hardened up. Safety really. I'm going uphill, pointing for the sky, working down towards the, in this case, the not the gauge line, I'm working towards the side of the groove. See there? So I've left that on there. Now I'm going to work this other side here. So again, I'm going to go about 3 or 4 mil down, pop it. So I'm halfway down now. Funny how that went that way then. Wood never does what you expect it to. Can you see what I meant? Oh, you can't really because I just pared it away. But this grain in here is quite wild. Can you see here? There was no reason for this to split the way it did there. But that's the nature of sapele. It just has this wild grain that does exactly what you don't want it to do. So here, I'm working from the opposite face here. Just paring down. So watch now here. I love to pare wood this way. It's just lovely. I got down too close to where I want here. Now I go down in increments of 1 millimeter. Something like that. See how I work to out that outside edge with the chisel, corner of the chisel. There's my shoulder. I'm still fairly thick. This can come off. This can come off. So I have a little bit more. I could pare that or I could just go straight to the router. I think I'm going to pare cut a little bit more. And that's got me the shoulder that I want. The shoulder is right on that knife wall. I just have to do a little bit of pare cutting here. And this, where it meets here, where it intersects here, can you see right inside here? There, can you see that dark line right on there, Phil? That's the exact knife wall. And then here, I don't pare in here because it will split off this area here usually. So when I get to here, I would put this in the vise. I wouldn't do it the way I'm showing you. Just go in here, just under pare there, just a little bit, and that will get the cut line that you want. So there now is my surface prepared. This is the registration face that I want to use the router to, because I'm going to pare this down with the router now and right into that line, because that's the guaranteed distance from the face here to the inside of the mortise hole. I'm going to try on this side. I usually would work the other side, but so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to back the iron up on this till it's 0. So I got nothing, turn it a quarter turn, still nothing, then a little bit less. So there, I'm on the inside face, so turn it another just little increments. You know, when we first started blogging and talking about the router plane, these were selling for £5-6 on eBay, and now they've gone back up to almost their original price and a lot more. So I think that's a measure of success for us, really. Look what we got now. Look at this surface, it's almost perfect. In fact, let me show you the line. There's the line, so I still have about 1/2 mil to take down, and then that will align this. Which one is it? This one. Yeah. This is going to go on this face. So what I'm looking for is how this aligns here. So I still have a little rim there because that's that distance that's still left on here. I've not touched the other side because I'm going to readjust for that size. And you could do all the faces of your tenons to this depth before you do any thicknessing or fitting of the tenon into the mortise hole. So you could do this one, and this one on the one face only, and that would prepare you for fitting your tenons. So I come in this way. Those are probably in the way, were they then? Work this side back. Just getting that outside rim so it doesn't split off. There, a perfect tenon cheek, absolutely perfect. And now this lines up perfectly with the inside of this face. It's about as near as I could get that to lining up spot on. And now I have to thickness this. Can you see I still have mucho plenty on there? Can you see I have all of that there? So I still have to take that down. I can ignore this face, I can mark this, and I can say this is finished. I don't have to touch this face again. All the fitting will be on this back face from here on. So I come way, way up here this time because I took quite a lot off that other face. Lock it down, turn it. This is the pear cut face, and I could have paired this right to the line, and it would do. I could pair with just a wide chisel, and this would have done just about the same thing for me. With a little bit of experience, you can get quite close. Can you see quite a lot still on here? Watch what happens here now. I'm going across the corner only, like that, see that? And then I come across this corner only, pressing down with my right hand hard on this surface here. And I took those corners out to try this in the mortise this way. Can you see that? That's working, that's pretty close to where I want it. And so is that one, it's still fat. So I can go with confidence at that depth setting with the settings locked off, and I can go in here and take off that fairly large amount really. I felt it resistance there, so I come from the other side to see if I get less resistance, and of course I did. So I'm responding to the grain the whole time. And that's how we fit the tenon. So I still have another shaving to do. I do exactly the same as I did before. Just turn it 1/4 of a turn this time. Move it into that corner, across the corner, making sure that this hand is pressing hard down. Same on this one here. Just to leave the bulk there in case I'm taking too much off. This is just creeping up on the... Now see that? That's exactly what I want to show you. Now this side seems to be working fine. So this could be because this face was never playing parallel to this outside face. So in cases like that, what you do, I can still go to this setting here because the bulk of this is going to be probably around here, so it is going to fit. And then after this, I can go in with just a chisel and pair parallel to this opposite face. So you have to make these adjustments. Now what you could do, if you wanted to, you could also take a shaving off this face, because this obviously is thicker than here. Does it bother me? No, it doesn't really. You could just use your chisel. You could just use your plane. You have these options. But I'm happy there. A bit more off here. So what do? Do I take a shaving? This is what you could do. These are your choices. You take your plane. Take a shaving off, and then when you drop this back on, it's going to take off exactly the same amount of that shaving there, and it's bringing it parallel to this outside face. It's pretty close. A bit more, so I'm going to take another shaving off here. Like that, and then I'm going in with this. It is amazing how accurate this can be. I think that's good. I think that's probably very close. I can still go in and take more off, but now I want to fit the tenon. I've got the two lines here. This is the edge of my rim of the groove, and this is the groove. I'm marking these so you can see. So this is going to go right on the inside of there. So I make a mark here, and then I want the haunch here. So those are the two lines I'm going to work to. That goes there, and that one goes there. Small saw. Down to the cut line. I didn't pair this shoulder, so I'm going to just pair into this shoulder. Put my chisel goes right onto the knife wall, and then push into the shoulder. Try not to undercut, as people will tell you to do. Try and keep it as square as you can. And here, this last little bit with the protrusion right in there, you do not want to cut from this way, you cut this way, like that. And that should give you a crisp, clean shoulder line. to fit your tenon through. I'm going to check my depth just to make sure I have nothing holding me off. I think I'm good. This is going to be the real test. Am I good? This is my surface face here. Watch what happens here. Can you see how that's tilting? There. Can you see that? That means I'm not perfectly aligned inside. Something is slightly off. So before I drive this all the way in, and I'm pretty close to all the way in, I'm going to go into my hole and I have to kind of work this out in my mind. I want this to be able to come round this way. And it's very tight. The whole mortise is tight and possibly too tight. So this is the face that was never paired. The other face was paired. So I'm going to go about 2/3 of the way down the inside face here, because right at the very bottom, I want the tenon to be able to press into this inside corner so that the outside face, now I'm not taking very much off, let me pull out how much I have taken off. There it is. So it's fairly thin, very thin. Let's try this again. So I still have tightness. There I've got a perfectly crisp, clean shoulder line, and now this is lining up as close as I can get it, so when I actually come to clamping this, this will line up perfectly. There won't be any issue. This is my outside face. Remember I said there was a discrepancy in the thickness on this face. This is the inside of my cabinet. This is the part that would not be seen. I look at the grain just to see which way I would plane this. I want this to be flush. I probably would not do this at this time, but I'm going to show you how I would do it. Safe to get all the tools out of the way. Check for grain orientation. And this is the way it was done in the 16th, 17th century. This was the way they would have worked to that one face, and that's the origin of our face mark and face edge. So we work down this face, we line up here. So I'm really more on this outside face. And we would usually do this after we've glued up, we've got the panel in and everything. We would usually wait until then. Now this is what you get. Can you see this grain here? This is reverse grain. So this is perfectly smooth, this is perfectly smooth. This is arguing with me here. I'm going to take it down until I'm flush on this inside face. So actually this will be surprisingly accurate. By the time you've finished, got these down, these surfaces, this is the tool for this job. Any wild grain, this will do what no plane will do. So here I'm careful, I don't want to tear here, but I am flush. And I can keep tweaking this a little bit more till I get this surface smooth. And I do that with each one of my joints. And this is where I end up with a perfectly married mortise and tenon joint. Once you've made your frame, you've got your joints fitted individually, you want to fit them all into the corporate hole, and this is the best part of the whole thing, I think. I've got my face marks on here, so I'm still working to those, but can you see in here and here I've already marked these because if I lose those markings I could get something the wrong way around. They should still fit. Ooh, don't you love that bit? Don't you just love it? Ooh, I do. It's so fits. This one is in here. So what you can do now is you could sight one side to the other, and this is looking pretty good, which is really what you want. Not much you can do once you've reached this stage when the joints are fully fitted. There's not much you can tweak. You just had that minor tweaking inside the mortise hole, but now, yeah, we only have so much we can do. That's working nicely. All right, look at your joint lines. It's looking good. That one is just, see that? Has a little gap there. Nothing to it. See that? Beautiful, beautiful. Look, those two down there, then look at these two up here. These are ready to go. Flip it around, look at the other side. These are ready to go. There is nothing that these joints, clamping this together now will be perfect. One thing I do want to know is, am I twisted or not? This is the inside, so I still have to plane these level, but they're not very much off. So I'm just going to put my winding sticks on here. I'm going to give you the visual side. Let's see what we got. Most important is, did we make a twisted door? And the answer is, we have a perfect untwisted door. So this now is ready for panels, whatever we want to do with this. So we would be making raised panels, flush panels, whatever we want to. That's the next stage. That's where you would go to now. But we have a perfectly made door with no twists. Just flushing these up now is as simple as can be. Let me see. Let me go ahead and do one of them for you. This is the inside. The outside is already flush. If you remember, we lined up the tenons and the mortise holes perfectly. So I'm going to clamp this here. This is the way I think works the best. Then I'm going to take a finely set plane. So looking at the shaving that just spilled out, that's not really a finely set shaving. So just back off the iron, offer it to the wood, and try and work out whether you're with the grain or against the grain in those early strokes. Going a little bit shy there, so a little bit heavier. Still trying to feel after this awkward grain. Okay, now I'm nearly flush, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring my plane in from this face here and use this as a reference face across here, because I'm not getting down to it. Can you see? I've got light here and I've got a hump there and I've got light on the outside edge, so it has to come off this little hump here before it will reach the whole surface. And this is really how we get down to the level, and this is why, if you remember, we don't want square edges on here. We chamfered this back, we chamfered this back, we chamfered the corner off, so that when we come round these corners here, see how it just rides up even though there's a bump there? So we can work around this corner using this as the registration face. Now it's going down, and we are pretty good. We just have a little hair more here. So this is real planing in real life. It works perfectly. And that's flush now. I've got some wiry grain here. I don't care which plane you use, bevel up, bevel down, fancy plane, wooden plane, that will not plane. So we go in here with the scraper and that's it. It's ready for sanding. Flush. So we do that all the way through. We've got a door made. So we're ready to actually glue this up if we've made the panel.